The wind off the Missouri River doesn't just bite in November, it chews. It's the kind of cold that makes your bones feel like brittle glass. Fatman was standing there in his apron, clipboard in hand, expecting a truckload of frozen birds. Instead, he got Marcus, a man who looked like he'd seen a ghost, or at least a very well-dressed carjacker. They'd taken the truck at 39th and Van Brunt. These weren't your typical street thugs. They wore catering jackets, the kind of camouflage that lets you blend into the background of a high-end gala while you're committing grand larceny. Fatman looked at the empty curb where the feast should have been and muttered that he hadn't ordered a hijacking with extra gravy. But Cookie was always the one with her ear to the ground, or in this case, her finger to the pavement. She found the slick, a trail of warm drippings, a literal breadcrumb path of poultry fat. The thieves were sloppy. They'd left a trail of evidence that smelled like Sunday dinner, and in this weather, that scent was as loud as a siren. They followed the grease through the rain. Two retired cooks turned bloodhounds on the scent of stolen charity.
A city like Kansas City runs on two things: barbecue and kindness. You mess with one, you're looking for trouble. You mess with both, you've got Cookie and Fatman on your case. Chief Doherty was at the counter, his face the color of a right beet. He knew the law, and he knew the law was too slow for a Tuesday before Thanksgiving. Then Jamal, bless that kid and his phone, showed us the digital fingerprint of the crime. There was Julian Price, a man who thought confit was a personality trait, preening for the camera in a loft that probably smelled like expensive cologne and desperation. Julian had been fired from every reputable hotel in the city for skimming the cream off the top, and now he was skimming the charity off the bottom. $200 a plate? That's not a dinner, that's a heist. Cookie saw that harvester stamp in the background of the video, and her eyes went cold. She knew exactly where those birds were. They traced the grease 3 blocks into the Crosswords district, right to a freight elevator that smelled faintly of poultry and arrogance. The trail didn't lie. Julian was selling the community's hope to the highest bidder.
Undercover is a fancy word for wearing a jacket that's 2 sizes too small and trying not to look like you can cook better than the guy in charge. Fatman was playing the part of a bumbling waiter, a role he hated because he respected the craft too much to fake it poorly. But he kept Julian busy, listening to some nonsense about cranberry caviar while Cookie did the real work. She slipped into that walk-in like a shadow. It was freezing in there, but her blood was boiling. Row after row of birds, still in their charity netting, marked with stamps that were never meant for a profit margin. She found the broken thermostat, the reason for our gravy trail, taped to a shelf like a trophy. She was clicking away on her phone, getting all the evidence needed to bury Julian when the light changed. Julian Price didn't just walk in, he sashayed, flanked by his 2 catering-clad thugs. He caught her dead to rights. He thought he was the hunter, and Cookie was just a stray that wandered into his trap. He locked them both in the dry storage, laughing about serving them on the house. He really didn't know who he was dealing with. There is a specific sound a well-seasoned cast-iron skillet makes when it meets a door hinge. It's a sound of liberation. Julian thought a simple latch could hold back a man built like a brick oven and a woman who's been handling hot grease since the 60s. They didn't just sneak out, they made an entrance. They walked right into that dining room while the influencers were busy filming their plates. Fatman's voice is like a pipe organ. It fills the room and rattles your teeth. He told them exactly what they were eating: stolen charity. Julian tried to keep his cool, tried to spin it as a misunderstanding, but Cookie was already 2 steps ahead. She'd hijacked the projector he was using for his fancy logos. Instead of Chef Julian's experience, the wall was covered with photos of stolen crates and harvesters' labels. The silence that followed was heavy enough to serve with a side of mashed potatoes. The influencers stopped filming their food and started filming the fraud. The narrative had shifted, and Julian was no longer the hero of the story.
You have to love the irony of it all. Gravity always wins, but tonight, gravy took the lead. Julian tried to run, he really did. He took 3 steps toward the back door, looking for a way out of the mess he'd cooked up. But he forgot about the leak. He hit that slick of poultry fat like he was on ice skates. 1 second he's a celebrity chef, the next he's doing a faceplant into 10 gallons of Yukon Golds. It was poetic justice, served room temperature. Chief Doherty didn't even have to break a sweat. He just stood there while the officers cuffed Julian, who was still picking bits of potato out of his eyebrows. Fatman, being the gentleman he is, helped him up just long enough for the cuffs to click. The truck was right where we thought it would be, loaded with the hopes of 400 families. As we started moving those birds back to the truck, the rain didn't seem so cold anymore. We had the turkeys, we had the truth, and we had a thief in the back of a squad car.
A kitchen is a place of alchemy, but for Fatman and Cookie, it became a precinct. By the time the sun started thinking about coming up again, the smokers were huffing out that beautiful blue wood smoke, and the neighborhood was waking up to the smell of a promise kept. Marcus was nearly in tears, shaking Fatman's hand like he was a long-lost brother. But Fatman just shrugged. He doesn't do it for the thanks. He does it for the empty stomachs. Jamal came in, waving his phone, shouting about food fighters and viral hits. Cookie just laughed and taped a piece of cardboard to the dry storage door. HQ, it said. They sat there among the flour and the yams, exhausted but satisfied. They knew this wasn't a one-time thing. There are plenty of Julian Prices out there, people who think they can take from the play of the poor to fill their own pockets. But now, those people have something to fear. 2 retired cooks with a cast-iron skillet and a nose for the truth. The food fighters were born, and honestly, I think the city's going to taste a lot better from now on.